Welcome everyone, and I hope you get ready for us to do a little bit of economics. And our today's topic, we are going to concentrate on consumer consumption. But to be more specific, we are going to study the indifference curve analysis as used in explaining what is an income and substitution effect, and with reference to an inferior good. Now, just to explain what is an inferior good, in normal terms, we normally have what is known as the normal good. These are these goods whose decrease in price leads to an increase in demand. That is, when the price decreases, the demand for these particular goods increases. But for the case of an inferior good, you find that when there's a decrease in prices of these particular goods, the demand is going to decrease. That is why we are referring to the negativity of elasticity of this particular income on demand. Then we talk about indifference curve. And these are curves joining different bundles of goods that are equally attractive or preferred. In other words, these are curves that joins different types of goods which gives the same satisfaction, and therefore this particular consumer becomes unable to choose the type of good to use, and they follow the same graph or curve. And I find that one of the properties of indifferent curves is that they are normally convex to the origin, that they are sloping. We are going to draw and see actually how they look like. And again, they never cross each other. That is another property. As we draw, we are going to see that one. And then we have another term that is referred to as the budget line, which is actually a combination of goods that can be afforded with the current income. This is a line that is drawn, and along the line, we plot those goods that this particular consumer is able to afford given his current level of income. Then I realize that maximum utility will always be obtained at the tangent of these particular lines. That is, we are going to obtain the tangent to find actually the point at which there will be maximum utility. Now, for us to explain the income and substitution effect with reference to these inferior goods, I would like us to start with a simple drawing of a budget line with its indifference curves as going to be illustrated. Like, we start with a simple budget line, that is, you can have this budget line here. I'll give it a name. For example, this is a budget line 1. So you realize that when you have budget line 1, and we actually try to assume that good Q, we have good Q and good P, and assuming that good Q is inferior while good P is a normal good for this particular scenario, you find that if the price of good Q drops, the quality consumed of good Q is going to increase. So if the price drops, again, you're supposed to use another budget line to represent the drop in price. It means the budget line is going to tilt towards the right. Okay, it's going to tilt towards the right. So we are going to represent it with this particular drawing scenario. That one will be the drop in price, which will give us now budget line 2. So the drop in price for this particular product Q, for instance, you realize that when you have the original, initially we had the original budget line BL1, and I say that maximum utility will be obtained at the target. So by drawing a target to this line, we are supposed to have the target that, let's say, at this particular point, we're going to have something to do with that. So this is indifference curve 1. But when the price drops, okay, then you find that at this particular point A gives the maximum utility when you consume bundles of goods along budget line L1, but drawing a particular point or dropping the prices of quantity goods good Q, which is an inferior good, will lead to a different utility which will now be obtained at this particular point, which can be read by obtaining another indifference curve, which are going to give it as indifference curve 2. So initially you realize that when we have this budget line L1, we are going to consume quantity of good Q at the point where we have X1, likewise to X1 for good Q. But now when you drop the line, when you drop the price, the consumption is going to increase all the way to X2 for good Q, which is an inferior good. And after a drop in price, when I realize the consumption increases, so I realize that when the price drops, when the price drops from actually drops on good Q, the consumption increases from X1 to X2, as we have illustrated in the point below. Now, for us to break the impact of substitution and income effect, we are going to make a parallel line to the left of this particular curve. So you're supposed to draw a parallel line to the left of this particular line BL2. So when you make a parallel line, it shows that actually we are changing the prices as well as the quantities for this particular product. And when you do that one, you're going to have a drawing to do with. So this one is parallel to the line given. So you're going to have another parallel line. This is budget line 3, of which we had here the point of B, which gives the maximum utility on budget line 2. And when you have that particular line, you find that you look at the point at which new budget line 3 is tangent to indifference curve 1, and you realize that it is at this particular point where the budget line 3 meets indifference curve 1, and we have this particular point, the point of the intersection, that is budget line 3 and the indifference curve 1, which is actually at point C. Now, at point C, you realize that at point C, the consumption of goods have increased to X3. The consumption of goods have increased to X3. Now, initially we had consumption at A, and due to the decrease in prices, the goods consumption went to B, and finally for us to look at the effect of the substitution and income effect, we drew this budget line BL and we obtained the tangent at point C. Then from this particular scenario, you will realize that for us to talk about the substitution effect, it takes place at the point where the unit consumed of good Q increases from X1 to X3, that is from A to C. So it takes place at the point where X1 increases to X3 for every unit of good P consumed, that is from A to C, under the tangency rule. And then you realize that under the substitution effect, when you have a decrease, it means when you have a fall in prices, it means that there will be automatically an increase in quantity consumed, because you realize that when the price fell from given by the budget line B to BL2, the quantity increases from X1 to X3, which is actually from A to C. But now when we talk about the income effect, we are going to represent it at the point where now the quantity consumed decreases from X3 to X2. So from X3 to X2 is essentially the movement from C, that is from C to B. From C to B. Why? Because we find that when you have a fall in price given from budget line BL1 to BL2, so fall in price was generally followed by a decrease in quantity, because actually realize that from Q3 to Q2 is actually a decrease in quantity. And this is now how the income or substitution effect arises for this particular inferior goods. And I hope you find this video helpful. Kindly subscribe for more videos. Thank you.